Being late is worse than not coming at all? Cool. My high school had a really dumb policy about missing from class. At our school, classes were separated to 45-minute blocks. You could have one subject spanning multiple blocks. Morning classes started at 8:15, and you were expected to arrive to school earlier than that. At 8:15, the principal would already be at the front entrance and personally write up students. The policy was that if you were late more than 3 times to a class, it would affect your final score in that subject significantly. But missing completely from that class would not affect it at all, even without a parent or doctor's notice. This wasn't always the policy. They made it about 2 years before I graduated. So we were never late to a class again. 5 minutes late to school? Make that 45. Boring morning classes? I'll just come in at 11 a.m. instead. This really backfired because instead of missing 5 minutes of class, students would miss the whole lesson, sometimes multiple hours of that one subject. For some reason they were very proud of that policy, so from what I know they never changed it. It's amazing how often those in charge fail to see the bigger picture. Great MC there. In my country, the contract between the company that runs the train services and the government stipulates a fine for delays and cancellations of departures. Pretty standard, I assume. Thusly, it is cheaper in fines to cancel a singular departure than to have 3 consecutive departures delayed. Alright, I suppose that makes sense monetarily. However, if the schedule is really affected one day, they can and will cancel 3 consecutive departures, which doesn't really make for a better service, as the fining system intended for. We had similar policies back in the 90s. My parents were away for a couple days, so it was just me and the dog. I take the dog out to pee before school and she hears something and runs into the woods. I get her back within minutes, but she is literally covered in those painful sticky burrs. If you live in Florida, you know, she was a Shih Tzu. So these burrs, hundreds of them, are totally tangled in her hair. She can't even sit comfortably, there are so many. So I call my mom and tell her to call the school and let them know there was a family emergency and I will be late. Well, the mandatory punishment for being late was detention. That pissed my mom off cause I was doing the responsible thing, taking care of the dog first, so my mom called me out sick entirely. I missed the whole day because they would rather I not show up than be late. My school used to give you Saturday detention if you had 3 unexcused late days. They would also give you a 1-day suspension for missing 3 Saturday detentions. It was pretty common to just take a 1-day school vacation in lieu of serving 3 Saturday detentions. My job is like that. 1 minute late is the same as an hour late, and 3 lates and you get written up. So most people just call in sick when they realize they'll be late. The others will stop rushing and go get a coffee and stroll in when they are ready. You'll find our jobs are often just as mindlessly idiotic in their policies. I'm thoroughly convinced the real purpose of public school is to get us accustomed to inept, moronic administration, and it just has the side benefit of teaching us our math and sciences and whatnot. We're trained to show up somewhere on time, deal with decisions that make 0 sense if you actually consider them, so you just switch it off and say, fuck it. And you stare at that clock and wait till you can finally go home. Oh, but here we're sending some work home with you as well so that you get accustomed to your work creeping into your home life, and that it's normal and even expected to just go ahead and lower that work-home boundary. Meanwhile, my school was super chill. One time I came 50 minutes late to a 45-minute class. Bumped into the teacher on the stairs as she left my classroom and I was about to enter. She was like, "Oh, you are here. Good," and that was counted as attendance. XD. My high school would send you to in-school suspension if you were even a few seconds late to class. They had multiple hall monitors, sweeping the place like a squad of cops, and would start yelling at you to stop where you are the second the bell rang. So rather than be 30 seconds late to class, you would miss the entire class and sit in a room, writing lines over and over, which seems completely useless and taught me nothing other than a hatred for the principal. Should mention this school had roughly 3K students, multiple floors, and only 5 minutes between classes. Being late was inevitable even if you ran, which also was not allowed. Behold the old ladies berating you for missing class. My school did this as well. If you were a minute late, you had to get a late slip, and 3 of those got you a detention. There was more severe punishments for more of them. But if you are going to be late, just take your time and walk into the building during a passing period. You would be marked absent for the class you missed but be on time for the rest, so no late slips. And since the absence was only for one class, it would be like you were absent 1/5 of the day or something. So basically you could be late every single day of the week and it would count the same as a 1-day absence. And there really was no punishment. At least they never hit me with anything. I was so chronically late my senior year that I think just by missing my first class all the time I amassed like 30 days of absences. The law of unintended consequences. We had a similarly stupid late policy at our school. Late was late, whether it was 2 minutes or 2 hours. The penalty was a short detention, IIRC 30 or 60 minutes, to be served over lunch or after school. If you had detention outstanding, you couldn't receive your report card until you served it. Detentions stacked. So in theory you didn't want to get too far behind, or you'd be serving detention for a month to get back to even. Except there was a loophole at the end of the year or semester. They recognized that it wasn't realistic to serve 30 hours of detention in a single day. So simply serving detention at the last possible day was enough to wipe the rest away. We had homeroom back then. 5-minute class where they took detention. And I had a spare first period 1/4 days. So I skipped every 4th period and was late like 30 times in my last year. And only served a single detention on one of the last days of school. Another similarly stupid policy was that at 18 you could sign your own forms, which meant that any students who were 18, common in Ontario back in the OAC, grade 13 days, could excuse their own absences. I was chronically late to middle school because my dad was always late getting out of bed. Policies like this ignore things that are out of kids' control. I'd have used malicious compliance too in this case. In my case, I was an A student who got sent to the principal often for excessive tardies. My high school had system where if you were late you would have to go to the main office to get a tardy slip where they would mark you late for the class. So your attendance would be marked late. So what did I do? Go get a tardy slip, then skip class. Now I am just marked late instead of absent, lol. But it's the students paying the price for their missed education. This is the type of MC that ultimately hurts you more than the school. I get it. Skipping lessons without consequence is a teenager's dream. But if you go to school to actually learn, that's a whole other story. I'd rather fully attend school than flip burgers at McDonald's. Why not get your ass out of bed and get to class on time?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.